first I'd like to thank you. I believe I've done so individually, but I'd like to thank you again collectively for taking the time to come and be part of this process. I would hope that at some point it would also include, we would have an introduction, because we need to know who is from where. I know we're dealing with a crop of dedicated, committed, and forward-looking undergraduates, but I hope not everybody is from Unilag and LASU. Is that what we have here? Probably so. Okay, so before we get into the main gist of why we have come here today, I think it's appropriate to say a few words in terms of the short history of how we got here, you know, this idea of a SaharaReporters Education Café. And it is necessary to recap that history because some of you must have heard, you know, what's going on about the garnishing, right? The garnishing of the accounts of SaharaReporters. So it's perhaps you know, there is no greater recommendation, you know, in terms of why we are doing what we are doing today than what has happened. You know, the idea that, you know, I want to believe that I am educated. I want to believe that my partner in crime, Mrs. Bamidele Ademola-Olateju, is educated. You know, we go everywhere, we do everything together. So I'm sure you know that our history of partnerships in terms of advocating for social progress in this country. I want to believe that Showore is educated. All of you are educated, right? Everybody in this room is educated. And so we've got agency. But the idea that some undereducated people in Abuja, you know, who got to where they are today, not through the paths that we are advocating, but through the parts that we are condemning, you know, corruption, and a very warped value system, that they can just up and decide that SaharaReporters has got to fold up, that the spaces of decency and agency and progress, you know, have got to recede in this country. It's scary. So you begin to ask yourself, if, you know, we're all educated people. What's our power? What's the worth? What's the value of education? And so 4 years ago in Accra, Showore and I confronted this problem. I was doing my sabbatical then at the University of Ghana, and Showore came visiting. And, you know, we were having the usual talk about Nigeria, and we had a brainwave, you know, in terms of our educational system is in a shambles, and you know that. You live it. You come from that environment, you know. And is there anything we could or we should do to complement what's the remnants of an education that's still taking place or going on in our university system? Or is it even appropriate for folks like us to see what's going on in the universities, to see what's going on in our polytechnics, in our colleges of education, in our tertiary institutions, and still leave not only the practical sides of education to such institutions, but the entire philosophy of education, the entire moral, ethical basis and recommendation of education? Can we leave it in the hands of the same forces that have systematically and progressively destroyed it in this country? So that was a fundamental question Showore and I faced, you know, in my living room, in my apartment at the University of Ghana 4 years ago. And so over the last 4 years, we've been bouncing off ideas, you know, what to do. Should we start some kind of education pull-out on the pages of SaharaReporters? Should we start some kind of activism on campuses? Or should we start something like this, you know, little focused, you know, qualitative as opposed to quantitative approaches, you know, to having dialogue that would also be combined, with practical recommendations, in terms of where our youth ought to go with this question of education and why they must maintain, because we are a society that must now relitigate the idea of education, quite frankly. Because if you see people making billions, if you see people storing billions not far away, in apartments not far away from here, if you see people being garlanded, if you see people being serenaded in this society who are not educated, who cheated the system, who forged, who lied, who stole, if you see people produced by that kind of value system, and they're the ones that the society is rewarding and elevating, we have to make the case. So it's no longer sufficient to say, go to school, go get a degree. We have to make a case for it. And that's precisely what Sahara Reporters has set out to do. So I must congratulate you all, the crew from Sahara Reporters. Shuwore is not here, but I also want to congratulate him for tenacity, for the dream, for the vision, for hanging on to it, for pursuing it. And I also want to thank, of course, my co-facilitator and collaborator in this, because she has been part of the dreaming, of this process. And we thank you for coming. And I'll let her say a few words before we get into our main gist.
Good morning, everybody. I want to thank you for coming here this morning. And I want to tell you that you are one of those few people that are going to be grabbing the opportunities, the spaces. We said this place will probably seat 30 people. We limited it to 20 people. And we don't have that 20 people, even though some people complained that the link couldn't open on time. It's probably due to their network, not that anything was wrong with the link. What does that tell you? It tells you that your generation still has opportunities that some people are refusing to recognize, that some people are refusing to grab. We are here today to share our experiences with you, and we gave that opportunity. You are the ones that are ready to grab that opportunity, to learn something, to see what can you do to make yourself better, to be competitive. This is a beautiful opportunity, and I want to urge you, luck. Is there anything like that? Luck is where opportunity meets with preparation. When you prepare and you see that opportunity and you grab it, that's what is called luck. Luck doesn't come to anyone who has not prepared. And one of those things is that you are grabbing the space. I want to congratulate you for recognizing that this is an opportunity. You will be learning something, you'll be getting some information that, well, some people might get it in video. Later, watch the video. Some people, they are not in Lagos. They can't come to Lagos. I understand that. But a lot of, do you know the population of undergraduates in Lagos, and we can't get 20 people? If it's Davido or somebody that is coming here to talk this morning, we'll have to turn people back. People will be banging the gates. So I think that says something about our psyche, about our values. But hey, the best quote I've ever seen on education is Lord Henry Brougham. He said, 1828, education makes a person easy to lead, but difficult to drive, easy to govern, but impossible to enslave. I want you to take that to heart. A person easy to lead, but difficult to drive. You can't drive an educated person like a slave. Easy to govern, but impossible to enslave. It's that education that we have, that enable that voice that we have, that you people are looking forward to. And we want to look back in another 10, 15 years, when we wouldn't be able to make this noise as hard as we are making it now, that you people will be able to grab those spaces. So we'll continue shortly, and I look forward to our interactive session. Thank you.
So I think before we dig in now, this is the time to get to know you. This is a small group, so we can just rapidly start from here. Tell us who you are and school level.
Okay, my name is Messi. I'm a graduate of University of Nigeria.
You are a
graduate of the University of
Nigeria?
Nigeria.
You are a graduate, right?
Yes, I am.
So what are you currently doing?
I'm into education, trying to understand a few things so that I could actually launch a solution in that regards.
Okay.
Give us your surname so we know.
Messi Annie.
Annie, okay.
Yes, Annie.
So you are technically get crashing this
our program.
But you are a graduate.
Okay, my name is Grace Adewumi. It's quite difficult to introduce myself though, because I didn't do Nigerian education, so but I did more of education online. So, but I didn't do Nigerian education because of difficulties in education here in Nigeria.
Because of the what?
Some difficulties. I don't like the learning pattern. That's just it. So that's
Okay.
all.
So you are self-taught? You attended schools
Yes, mostly self-taught.
Oh.
Okay.
Are you still technically?
Yes, technically.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So you consider yourself an undergraduate?
I can.
Okay.
Okay. My name is Omoke Kolufela, a student with ICANN.
Okay, ICANN.
Yeah, Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria.
Okay.
ICANN. But can you go directly to ICANN before your accounting degree? Or?
No, I started with what is called ATS.
Okay.
So from there, I move on to the professional level.
Okay. Good.
My name is Grace Agokoro. I am an undergraduate at Babcock University.
Good morning. My name is good afternoon. My name is Okiki Kenechukwu Amanda. I'm a graduate of Anambra State University, Uli. I also work with SaharaReporters.
Good afternoon. My name is Aliyu. I'm a graduate of both Bamidele University and the University of Lagos. I stumbled upon this on my way to Lagos on Friday. Yes, and
that's good.
I've actually followed both of you closely, so it's a privilege to be here.
Thank you.
So we may have to mix this up a little and include some stuff for potential graduate students.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bamidele Ademola-Olateju. I'm a product of the Petroleum Training Institute, EFRO. I'm still a student of the School of Life. I heard about this program very late last night, and I sent Prof a text message. So that's why I'm here. Thank you very much.
Oladeji Olaleka. I'm a legal practitioner.
Okay. My name is Oyinye Anakuba. I'm a graduate of University of Benin.
My name is Adi Olorunfemi, undergraduate of University of Lagos.
Okay, so finally.
That's all.
Finally an undergraduate. Okay, yes. That's Sahara Reporters now. a graduate of the School of Struggle. Okay, yeah. So we have a mix on our hands there, but that's fine. That's only going to enrich the
Discussion.
The discussion, the conversation. We also do a lot. Incidentally, we also do a lot of work, mentoring graduates, as well as postgraduate students. So that's fine. Possibly some of you who are graduates, you are at that phase when you're thinking, what next, right? Do I want to go to grad school? Is there anybody contemplating that here? Do I want to work? Do I want to go to grad school? Who's thinking of grad school? Who's thinking of? I was thinking of grad school. Yeah, I guess you're not thinking of grad school precisely because of what we're here to talk about. We have to make the argument, right? So we consider ourselves, quite frankly, the two of us, we consider ourselves, we are on trial, right? We are on trial for education. That's our approach to this thing. We have to make the case, you know. We have to make you see, you know, a reason why you should go to grad school, for instance, you know, instead of maybe thinking of certain other ways of making it in this society. But here is how we are going to proceed. So the two of us are going to take 10 minutes because there is nothing, we believe we have stories to share, you know, our experiences, you know, in terms of our journeys, our individual journeys through education and why education, you know, became a pillar, a focal point, you know, of our lives. And we are going to be defining education very broadly. I hope you're not having a limited conceptualization of it as an institutional. She's not in a university, for instance, but she's an educationist, right? You know, or something. So you have to have a very broad conceptualization of it, you know, a life dedicated, you know, to knowledge, a life dedicated to things of the mind, a life dedicated to intellection, you know. Do we still have a reason to recommend that to folks in your generation? So we believe that a good starting point would be our stories, and then trust me, we won't bore you. And then when we're done with our stories, then she will take you through the common excuses and alibis that we have, or we hear from members of your generation, actually, as we mentor them, as we interact with them. And I can tell you these excuses and alibis, you know, that is for not pursuing a life of the mind, a life of commitment, an engagement, you know, to knowledge, you know, to broadening one's intellectual horizon. You know, we hear a lot of, I guess what I'm trying to say is every time you hear somebody dismissing Dogon Turinchi, right? That's the shorthand form for it. Who English hep? Ep, sorry. Who English ep? Who grammar ep? Aha. So those are the attitudes. So we need to, so she'll explore some of these common excuses, and then we'll make a case against each of them, and then we'll have some kind of formal panel, and then we'll interact in a Q&A. So we'll make it, and then we'll also explore some resources for self-development, in an age where excuses have become a thing of the past. Alibis are no longer valid. We'll tell you why, and you'll see the gains and the advantages, you know, in pursuing, you know, the kind of life and endeavors that we are recommending. So without further ado, Bamidele, what's your story?
Good. I would first of all like to say I have an advantage from birth that my parents were teachers. Okay, I will have to recognize that. And because of that, because of certain things that privilege gave me, I always write for those who follow me on social media that privilege ought to count for some good. When I started schooling in the early 70s, public education was beautiful. My father graduated from Wesley College Ibadan as a grade 2 teacher and was posted to Ibeshe, where Dangote has his cement. You know how Ibeshe is. Those of you who have seen Ibeshe, even now, he did. At that time, nobody could influence posting. You can't say, I don't want to go to a rural area. You just go where you are posted and you impart knowledge. With that mindset, by 1970, my father left Ogun State. I was already born because my father married my mom from Ogun State and came back to, we were still Western Nigeria at the time, to what became Ondo State, a child of teachers. You need to see the school I went to. 6 classrooms, 1 for primary 1, each room for a class. Our teachers were grade 2 teachers. but they were the best. So I think I had the best foundation for early childhood education. So I finished secondary school in 1976, primary school in 1976, moved on to secondary school. I think everything was okay until 1979 when the civilian came to power. I can, now in retrospect, I always trace it that the rot started with when Obasanjo came, the Ali must go crisis, because I think the government didn't plan for our population after the oil boom. Everything just exploded and they couldn't handle it. By the time they looked at money and the books, they felt they couldn't continue. They started cutting education. I wouldn't dwell too much on that. So that started affecting me, affecting those of us who grew up. So when people say, oh, you had it so good, I didn't. I had it good probably up to 1978. By 1979, it has started manifesting. I took my West African certificate exam. 4 weeks to the exam, I was sitting for physics. I think I memorized some chapters in Nekona and Parker. I was able to pass. I think I memorized the whole of Pillai. There's a book, Organic Chemistry Pillai. I memorized it from the front cover to the last page. Up to today, I can read it out. So I went for baccalaureate. I can't say I knew what I was doing in terms of education until I finished university. I was just passing through. I was reading because I was told to read. Everything was memorized. Nothing opened my eyes. I just managed to get good grades. I didn't even know who I was then until I went to the United States to study postgraduate. Then I found libraries. I mean, big. The reference section is full of books. And being a Jesuit school, you know, those Catholic priests, they are just too good. If you have ever gone through Catholic priests, you wonder, where is this brain from? It opened my eyes. I will bury my I went through the university like you, like our GNS class, we were like 1,000 too. We were hanging too, because subvention had been cut. But then, the education I had then, compared to what is going on now, it's like heaven. But the rot has started at the time. So what did I do? I reinvented myself when I had the opportunity. When I was growing up, we didn't have this. This came, you knew when it came, 2003, right, to Nigeria. That's when it came. And the information highway has democratized knowledge. You know, I read like mad every day. That I must learn a new thing. When I got to the United States, we were relying on LexisNexis. Now, everything, there's no course you want to read that is not online, that is not free. Every syllabus, everything you are taught in every field of human endeavor is online. You can learn. That was what I did. When I saw that opportunity, I grabbed it. So that I'm educated today, that education came from self-learning, self-improvement, and the determination to succeed. Again, I concede, when I was in primary school, I remember I was in primary 5. My father insisted I read Thomas Hardy. And the book was kind of hard for me to read, so I glossed over a few pages. When my father came, he said, "Oh, did you finish the book?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Okay, come and summarize it." The knock my father gave me is still here. When you touch this place, it's still knotted up to today. Since that time, I never lie about reading a book. If I don't like the book, I'll say I don't like the book. My father made me read. There's no shortcut to that than to read and acquire that knowledge. By primary 4, I had read Animal Farm. That's why I said I concede that I have that background. Some people don't have the zeal to read, to educate yourself, to succeed. People say, will education help? I'm sure if you people here were one of those people who wanted money, who wanted the sharp now, you won't be here. Those who wanted the sharp now are not here. You are here because you believe in education. So if you believe in education and it has brought you into this room, what you need to do is to determine that I'm going to utilize every opportunity at my disposal. When I got to the United States, I was given a scholarship from here to study for business school, graduate school in business, MBA. When I got to America and I saw all the beautiful things, I said, Omo, I must work. Oh. I will sell ice cream. The people were telling me the things I could do to make money. So I told my husband I will sell this, I will sell that. I said, sell what? You can't work outside, you are an international student. You have to work only 20 hours a week and it has to be legal. You are not authorized to work. I said, I bet which kind of work they campus where person fit do now? Say you can work in the lab. Doing what? They said, computer lab, helping people to do as a computer. That I was already married. When my husband brings computer home, I see that computer as my rival. Because my husband will be doing this, poking. He will never come to me, he won't talk to me. So I say, me, computer. But when I got there, and the only thing I could do was to work in the lab, I said, when will I start? He said, you have to know it. I said, knowing it. Shebi, you know it. I will know it. We went to the lab, to the bookstore. We bought a book called Introduction to Computers. You know, have anyone read American authors here? Any book by an American? American authors know how to break things down. They will spoon feed you like you are a dummy. I bought the book in 3 days. The book will say on. They will show the picture for on. I'll press it. Then that time it was MS-DOS. They will say, enter this one, I will enter it. After 3 days, I would do everything myself. I went back, I said, I'm going to start, I want the job. Then I was referred to the lab manager. He said, are you not Bamidele who came last week? I said, yes, I am. Can you work in the lab? I said, of course, yes. He took me there, he said, I should put on the computer and open my email. That time we were using Novell Groupwise. There's a software called Groupwise then. I opened it, I sent email, I did some command at the command prompt. You know computer, take the job, $5.40 an hour. I was an MBA student. I registered for only one class, organizational behavior, so I could know how to navigate the process. Guess what? 3 months into my graduate program in business, I was debugging COBOL for master students. Because one boy came one day and said, hey, he started crying around 2 a.m. that his program wouldn't run, blah, blah, blah. I said, let me see the program. I don't even know what was on the screen. I don't know whatever language. I kept looking at it. I kept looking. I was following the logic. I didn't understand what he was doing. After a while, I said, can you put semicolon here? Because I noticed it's not there. He put it and he pressed enter. The thing just broke. He just grabbed me and started shaking me. It ran. I said, it ran. Then someone will come and will say, Visual Basic. They will do something. I will say, You said, if A plus B is this, then this. Okay, what does this stand for? He will tell me. What does this stand for? He will tell me. Then, what is the problem? Say, it's not working. It's supposed to show this. I'll say, okay, let me look at it. I'll look at it. I'll say, But you say A and B, right? So, if it's A and B, why don't you put two parallel lines that you put over there here? You put it, it will run. Then everybody started telling me, aren't you wasting your time in business? Anyway, to cut the story short, I finished my graduate business course on a Thursday. By Monday, I started masters in computing. I've never touched the keyboard when I left Nigeria. The program was 2 years. I finished it in 9 months with 3.9 GPA. And I was offered a job in the university to teach, I taught for only 3 months. One day, my dean came to me and said, Ford Motor Company needs someone. And they wanted an undergrad. I said, no, it's you we will recommend. Go there and do the interview. I won't bore you. I would like to tell you that the money I went to Ford, they said, they gave me the idea. They said, we are hiring interns for summer. We want them to register and let it submit to a database. It might seem so easy these days, but in 1999, it wasn't easy. The only programming language that could do that was called Perl. It was at the same time that Microsoft was introducing active server pages, which I haven't heard of. I didn't even know Perl, but I have an idea. They gave me, I said, give me. They said, I can do it. They said, how? I just went to the board. I started doing it. They had interviewed like 8 people. That was how I got employed into Ford Motor Company, and it changed my life. Computing, not the first MBA that I did. Throughout my corporate life in America, I was working in computing. I think it will be news to those who read me, who would think probably I got liberal arts education. No. I wasn't. My background in science. What did I do? I utilized an opportunity. By the time I was finishing my master's program in computing, year 2000 problem was coming on, 1999, 2000. I keyed into that. When they gave me at the interview, they just looked at themselves. They didn't say, please go out, let's discuss. No, they just looked at themselves like this and said, you have the job. I jumped 3 red lights before I got home when I saw my money. I jumped so many lights. I was looking at my rear mirror. What's wrong with those people? Why are they waiting? I had jumped it before I realized you are the one jumping red light. I was so happy. It just changed everything for me. So today, education is still the key to success. In this globalized world, education is it. And with education, you can be and you make a name for yourself. You make a living for yourself. You don't have to cut corners. You don't have to do anything funny. Education, for me, I still believe, is still the key. You go to India today, China, they are competing. They are getting hired by companies all over the world. There's a Nigerian who came to meet Prof in my house last night. He waited until he arrived because he arrived late. Guess what? An orphan, very poor. He went on scholarship, PTDF scholarship to Scotland. From there, he was hired into Halliburton, then ExxonMobil. He came back to Nigeria 2 weeks ago as an expatriate to do something in their office in Victoria Land. They were carrying him all about. They were asking, do we give you security? He said, I'll be on Monile here now, don't worry, you know. And he kept telling me, he contributes on my wall that I want to give back too. I want to tell people that if you know what you are doing, the sky is still your limit. So with that phone on your hands, you can still educate yourself, even with the rot we have in the educational system. I'll be going through my slides, debunking those things and telling you where you can find opportunities based on my experience. So I'm here, educated. Again, I would like to tell you, it's not because I had the best education in Nigeria. I always say it. Nigeria did not make me. America made me. I always say it. Because that was where I got wings to fly. But I got the wings to fly because I was ready to seize the moment. I was ready to read. I was ready to compete. To compete, I had my difficult moments. Because they will say something in the class. Nigeria, I want to assure you that you can compete anywhere in the world. I guarantee you that as a Nigerian. Nigerians always do. Because here what we know is rote learning. We memorize. We don't really understand it. When you now get into an environment where you now know the basics and you can understand it, you will just begin to fly. People wonder, they always say, why are Nigerians the most educated? This because we have it in us to hustle. And we can think when we have the opportunity to do so. So, I wouldn't like to go back in circles. I know, for example now, this, remind me your name again. Grace. Grace is self-taught. She's learning online because she said she doesn't have faith in the Nigerian educational system. All she needs to do, if she's invited for an interview, is to prove herself. That's it. It would not matter whether she did not go to Unilag or she did not go to IFE or if she has her certificate, that's all she needs here. But elsewhere, you don't even need that certificate. I told you in Ford Motor Company, everywhere I have, two places where I've worked in the US, nobody asked for my certificate. They only asked for my transcript. I've never seen my certificate again since I put it in one place like that. I've never seen it again. Nobody will ask you for your certificate. It's that competence that they want. And you can acquire that competence these days easily. So I will let Prof speak, then I will go to the slides.
And you have to be a better timekeeper for me. Okay. Because I want to try as much as possible to keep to my own 10 minutes Lagos time, not African time. So nudge me. She's given us a lot of food for thought. So I'm just going to, instead of going into my own story, plug into some key moments. You know, she had a lot of key moments. So I'm going to plug into some of them and then bring them back to my own experience to reinforce the overall point she's making, you know. So let's go back to Who Education app that she asked again. Who Grammar app, Who Education app, and how does that tie to my own experience? It ties two ways to my experience, you know, my personal experience and my much broader experience as an educationist, you know, who crisscrosses tertiary education, you know, all over the world. Who Education app? The simplest answer is that education, the sort of qualitative, all-round, all-encompassing education that we're talking about, which has been destroyed in this country, is no longer available by, you know, being destroyed by the leadership. That sort of education helps the children of those who make it unavailable here. That's the simple answer. They would go, they would cross 7 seas, 7 oceans, climb 7 mountains to make sure that their children get precisely the sort of education that the value system here has conditioned you to dismiss. And so that's why they still be, so I've spent 20 years now in North America, 15 of those years teaching in universities in the US and in Canada. So you want to know the number of the kids of these people I have taught who've been in my undergraduate and graduate classes. Why are they coming to those places? What am I going to tell them? I'm going to sell the value and the virtues of erudition, of self-development, of investment in matters of the mind to them. A few years ago in Ghana, I was at some kind of meeting. Let's just say that I was doing my sabbatical, so the authorities would invite me into all kinds of meetings of the University of Ghana. It was Ghana here. And this meeting involved some level of institutional planning for the future, okay? Some form of, okay, we're making projections. This is where I want to go, in 10 years, I want to develop this program, I want to do this, you know, brilliant planning, ambitious planning, the sort of planning I was secretly hoping, I wish, you know, you can't help comparing as a Nigerian when you see better planning, better vision, better, you know, and all that. So I was impressed. But at some point, I started thinking in terms of the costs. Wait a minute, these people, one bell, you know, that sort of thing. Where is the money going to come from to finance this vision? So I asked. It's all well and good, you know, and I'm happy as a Nigerian to be even allowed into this sort of meeting, to become part of this planning and all. It's an African thing. I'm also contributing my own quota to the development of the continent beyond my, blah, blah, blah. But you guys, where are you going to find the money to fund? You don't want to hear the answer I got. With me sitting in the room, what they were basing their projections on at UG Ghana. Make an educated guess. You can. Tuition from this country. Oh yeah, we are going to do it. School fees from Nigeria. My mouth was like this. They had completely forgotten. So, if quality education is available, if it's available in Nepal, in Macau, if it's available in Iraq, in Tuvalu, the political elite will steal enough money to send their own kids to get it there while creating the sort of intellectually hostile conditions in which you begin to look down on that kind of education. Now, the bedrock of the sort of education that she's talking about is, of course, reading, right? Extensive, not the kind of reading like what you think reading is. That's the foundation. It's called erudition. You've got to build it. And there's no alternative to it. And you are in the Twitter generation, right? You are in the Twitter generation, and it's very, very difficult to sell. It's a global thing. It's not about Nigerian kids and millennials. This is a global phenomenon. You know, it's very difficult to sell erudition to folks whose attention span has now been conditioned to last the length of a tweet. So it's a global cultural condition. You know, actually as a professor, to teach undergraduates, even in a society where the culture, everything still says read, read, read. You know how I teach nowadays? Of course, you have to keep performing. You have to keep making your courses, your syllabi sexy, just to grab the attention. You know, I can no longer recommend. You know, it used to be that I could recommend 6, 7, 8 novels and other works, you know, per semester. Now it's a tough sell to recommend 2. Right, because these kids ain't going to read. And the 2 that I have to recommend, I must break down into tweetable, Snapchatable, Instagrammable formats where we perform in class. And even when I'm doing that, I still have to go and stand and teach from the back of the class. You know why I have to go and teach from the back of the class? If you're not teaching from the back of the class, all of them are carrying laptops and pretending that they're on Twitter. I hope that's not what the 2 of you are doing. You know. And I tell them, look, the only time you are allowed to go on Twitter in this class is if you are tweeting that your professor is awesome. Any other thing, you can't do that. So how do you recommend erudition? That global society where you are going to have to compete. And we will be getting to that at a later segment, you know, when she debunks the Alibis. We will be going to that global society. Still has not created an alternative to what is called the red mind. I see some people, some undergraduates that I mentor in this country, oh, I'm going to go to the private sector. Oh, you know, after my degree, you know, and you're recommending erudition to them. I'm going to go to this, I'm going to go to that. They forget that I have a lifetime of experience of writing recommendation letters for folks like them who have graduated and they don't want to remain in academia. They are also going to that, IT, I want to go to Silicon Valley, I want to join Facebook. Why do you think Facebook has a fellowship, a scholarship program, all the way to the PhD level? You think it's a joke? When these kids go for interview, when you're competing with the Chinese, when you're competing with the Indians who come to the same world but with a knowledge base because they have passed through a system which allowed them to marry genius, innovation with erudition. There is no, you cannot escape. Those who are interviewing you, they are separating those with just the certificate. You went through the courses. You know, they have looked at your transcript. Yes, you went through the courses. So you're just there, you have your BA, let me just say BSc computer science or BSc political science or any of the things you do here. But you went through it without deepening or developing or growing a knowledge base. You do not have a red mind. Being a university graduate does not mean you have a red mind. It does not mean you are erudite. The interview process, that is what it does. It is those who go to that interview. And I hear that a lot from folks in town. Oh, you know, that candidate, well-read, informed. They have all kinds of keywords or codes for describing those with red minds, who have red white. You know, they could say, oh, you know, oh, that student of yours, you know, he or she is such a cosmopolitan person. If you describe as cosmopolitan and you are hired on that basis or something, it doesn't necessarily, it's not reducible to your knowledge and, you know, being a global citizen, being this person with a worldwide view and all that. It also means somebody who has read very widely across very wide fields, very rich mind. So how does that tie to my own story? We come from a similar background. Very similar background. So again, one has to acknowledge that that is an advantage, right? That is an advantage. Both parents, educationists in the old missionary sense. You know, the missionaries of if your parents went through that sort of thing. So both parents, secondary school principals in the traditional sense, don't spare the rod kind of thing. And so I grew up as the only son of a man who had supreme contempt for the unread mind. Absolute supreme contempt for the unread mind. So throughout my life, from primary school, just like her, through secondary school, through university, I had to consume more outside the syllabus. The regular thing was nothing. The tyranny of the home library. Of course, I saw it as tyranny back then. Especially as, it ruined so many games for me. The generation of, you guys, you didn't grow up playing set. He would understand. You didn't grow up playing set. You millennials, you grew up with billiards or snooker or what do you call it? We played set. We played set with felele. How many of you know felele? You know felele? So we played set with felele. And your parents had the worst timing in the world. You would wait for like 2 hours for your set. It's 5 per group, 2 hours for your set. And just when it is your set, that's when Baba will start screaming. It's time to come and read. Baba, it won't do. So you miss a precious game of set because he wants you to come and read some kind of abridged version of The Tempest or Romeo and Juliet or some Russian 19th century author or Greek classics or the Roman classics and all that. So wide reading. But by the time I became an undergraduate, it was no longer something he needed to force on me. It had become the force of habit of reading widely and extensively. And I wouldn't realize the value of it until I got to the outside world. It's like you cannot escape the rest. So many of you, if you're part of that mindset, I'm not an academic anyway. I don't want graduate school anyway. I'm not going to do a PhD anyway. I want to work in a bank. So long as you are going to be part of today's competitive global environment, and you are going to be competing with those kids from all those countries that are actually dumping in millions. The more they are shouting IT, Silicon Valley, innovation hubs and all that, that is the part that gets to you. That is the glossy part you hear about. When Zuckerberg came here, jumping on Ikoyi Bridge and jogging in Yaba and everywhere, and all of you were taking selfies with him and all that, he came here to talk innovation hubs and stuff like that. I was reading about it. He wasn't talking of the underside of it. The hundreds of millions he is investing in erudition in his own country, in people like you. And they are not making it available here. They are not making it available. So there is no alternative to developing, and we are going to, I told you, there's a practical side. It's not just talk, talk, talk. There's no alternative to developing and growing the habit of endless, ceaseless reading. I know it's not easy. It's not easy, especially when the rewards are not, it's not instant gratification. This reading business, building your mind. It's not even at times empirically quantifiable. 99.9% of the time, the reading thing you're investing in, it even seems like a waste of time. There's better stuff you could be doing. But this day, when on a personal level, for those of you who may maintain an academic track, obviously I'm going to be pitching that. alternative to reading and hard work. You know, it helps you jump red lights. You know, it helps you jump a lot of red lights. When I finished my PhD, I did my PhD in Canada. My first job was at Penn State in the US. Back then, I wasn't even sufficiently familiar with the institutional nomenclatures in the US. I just knew that the Ivy League, you know, that's, you all know, when you hear Ivy League, you know what it means, right? What does it mean? Huh? Yeah. Can you name some Ivy League schools in the US? Aha. So did I hear Cambridge? Okay, I shouldn't hear Cambridge. Yeah. Although technically, well, Cambridge would be Ivy of UK, Cambridge, Oxford. Okay, so I knew Ivy League and the rest about the US. I didn't know that there was also something called the Big Ten. So the Big Ten actually technically are the public equivalent, that's how some people say it, of the Ivy League. The Ivy League, they are private schools. So the Big Ten, and there are actually 13 schools now in the Big Ten, I think, you know. So when you hear the Big Ten, it's in some way, in some thinking, in some version, the public equivalent. So the Big Ten are also up there. They're also up there. You know, Penn State, Michigan State, U of M, you know, and, you know, Indiana, you know, you have about 13 schools in the Big Ten. So when I finished my PhD, the reward of all this reading that we are talking about, even if you're in the academic track, when I finished my PhD, or even before I finished, I was still writing my dissertation when I got a phone call from the current Vice Chancellor of Kwara State University, Professor Abdul Rashid Naala, you know, who was then an associate professor of English somewhere in Illinois. And he was very excited. He was very excited. You know, he's an Ilori man. He phones, Pius, Motiba Olise. He was telling me he had found a job for me. You don't seem to speak Yoruba, right? Oh, okay. But you are not digging his Ilori thing. I'm just making my best of his Ilori accent, okay? And, well, to cut a long story short, he had applied for this job, because sometimes in the US, you can, you know, when you're going in between ranks, you can apply to other schools, either to put pressure on your current employers or to just move. And so he was at the moment when he was moving from associate, he was coming up for his chair, promotion to full professor. And he wanted to go for this job at Penn State as a full professor because they were advertising for a full professor. So he had gone for the interview. He had done, you know, it looked like he was going to get the job. And then he was turned down, finally. And in the end, in his conversations with them, you know, so what happened? What went wrong? I came for the campus talk and everything went, and I thought I was going to get it. You know, you can ask, what happened? And, well, they told him that, well, you know, somewhere along the line, we started thinking that this position for Africa should be 50-50. It should be, by 50-50, they meant someone who is equally at home in Anglophone African literatures and Francophone African literatures. So you must have a command of French. You must be able to do both, you know. And that's when he thought of me. So, if that's what you're looking for, I've got your guy. I've got your guy who is just at home in French, says in English, and he does both. So he calls me. But when he sends me the link to the job ad, so I phoned him, I said, what's all this? Are you mocking me or what? They are looking for a full professor. I'm still writing. I have not even defended, so I'm still ABD. We call it all but dissertation, right? So why should you even think that I should put in for a job like this? You know what he said? I'll never forget it. And you take it with you and apply it. You don't have to be in academia. Apply it to your dreams in whichever sector you hope to go into. He said, you are underestimating your CV and the quality of your mind. An encounter with you will make them redesign that job. That is America. When America finds what they are looking for, we go back. Just throw in your CV as a wild card. Your CV will interest them. They will put that phone call to you to try to gauge the quality of your mind. That is where the erudition comes in. Oh. That is where the erudition comes in. Oh. That is exactly what happened. I threw in my CV. So at first they were curious. Is this one crazy? Who is this ABD? We are looking for full professor. He's applying. But then, wait a minute. This CV for somebody who is still in graduate school looks good. Let's talk to him. We don't lose anything. 1 week later, they are looking for an assistant professor. They have redesigned. That's a big thing. They have redesigned the job ad. Not only that, in the US, in the liberal arts, you don't get a job if you don't go for an MLA interview, Modern Languages Association. American universities use it as a cheap option to filter. They don't have to pay to bring you to the MLA. So what they do is, if they have a pool of like 30, they invite 20. Say, come for the MLA interview, you know. So an MLA interview is usually a sign that they are interested in you. So it is from the 20 that they interview at the MLA that they will now pick 3 who are going to come to campus for the real interview. So after that thing, they said, come to New Orleans for the MLA interview. They interviewed me. I said, these people don't understand. I'm a poor graduate student in Vancouver, British Columbia, in Canada. You are inviting me. Where will I find the money? So I said, well, thank you, but I can't come for the MLA interview. 1 week after the MLA, there was another phone call from Penn State. Can you come to campus for a job talk? Do you understand what that means? Can you come to campus for a job talk? So I did not do the MLA. I went straight to Penn State for that job talk, got the job. So there's no alternative to it. Even the road to my internationalization. Anybody familiar with UI? And this is the last point I will make before we go to your something. There's an institute in Ibadan called IFRA. Some of you might have heard about IFRA. In the 90s, IFRA was huge. IFRA was one of the biggest funding. It's called the French Institute for Research in Africa. It's owned by the French government. So it's just based at the University of Ibadan. It doesn't have any, it's an expatriate international research agency, and they fund a lot of research, you know, in the social sciences and the arts and all that all over Africa. So IFRA is really, really, really big. In 1993, I was coming from Paris. I had a fellowship, some kind of fellowship, and I was coming back, 2-month fellowship in Paris or something. I was coming back. And I sat beside some middle-aged, 50-ish French man who was smoking a lot. They used to be able to smoke in the cabin those days. I guess it was banned in 98 or thereabouts, so now you can no longer smoke. This man kept smoking and blowing his thing in my face beside him. So he knew he was disturbing me. You know, yeah. So I was, you know, the discomfort, I kept hissing and hissing and hissing. And he had this little grin. He knew he was doing it. I kept blowing it. Halfway into the flight, he then asked me in French, you know, if I, you know, so it's now that you ask me whether you are. So I gave some very rude response because I was irritated, you know. But, you know, he somehow managed to engage me out of my invitation. And for the last 4 hours of the flight, it turned out he's the first professor of African linguistics in France. Massively well-read, erudite, but he was the director of IFRA. How was I to know that I was sitting beside the director of IFRA? And he engaged me for 4 hours. There was nothing we did, French classics, Roman classics, Greek tragedy, contemporary books, political science. He took me over. I didn't have a master's then, no. And this man, and the conversation was in French. He was a bibliophile. By the time we landed in Lagos, he said, what are you going to do? I said, when people graduate and they make first class now, I made first class in French now, they retain you. So I'm heading out to Ilorin to resume as an assistant lecturer in French. I said, okay, here is my card. I also need a senior research associate. And so if you think that that is what you want to do. When I saw his card, I nearly fainted. I beg you can smoke now. You can smoke now. Director of IFRA, if you are in the circles of French that time in Nigeria, he was the director of this country after the ambassador of France. So, he had that kind of, to cut a long story short, that's how I ended up on a road trip with him to Ibadan instead of Ilorin. And he gave me a job to coordinate certain aspects of the research of IFRA across Africa. By the time I left IFRA 3 or 4 years later, I had visited nearly 35 African countries. You go to Kenya, we have a partnership with UNCHS, we have this with the African Union, we have this with that, we have this with, just because I was able to sustain a conversation for 3 hours about books and ideas with a man who was disturbing me with cigarettes. Think about that, okay? So this is the point where, do you need like, we can do this the American way. Do you need like a 2-minute stretch and recess and we reconvene? Okay, bathroom break. And then Bamidele will come to do some practical things. So, bathroom break.
The short break we just had. Prof mentioned Mark Zuckerberg and the quality of his mind, of minds, the erudite mind. I would like to say that you may not know, Mark went to Philip Exeter, the best boarding school in the United States. You can't enter these schools. These are elite secondary schools. You cannot enter unless you score very high in an exam called SSAT. They don't just consider the score. They consider, have you volunteered? Have you served humanity? At the age of 10, 11, 12, they are looking towards you to have volunteered your time to do something. Sports, because it builds character. Sports build character. What sports are you engaged in? Have you won any medals? As you begin to answer these questions, you begin to score marks apart from your raw score from the examination. Then you have to write an essay in the exam. When you write this essay, they don't ask you, they will just give a phrase. They don't give you any sentence. I've seen the exams. I've written it. Actually, the English exam, the mock English exam, I lost 9 marks in their English exam, in the analogy section. I nearly flunked it. I'm like, is this thing this hard? You have to, they said they are focused on the top 1%. Yeah, to get into American boarding school, the top 1% is what they get. That's where Mark went to. He didn't just go to any school. You have to write an essay. There's an essay I saw, they said, I was there when, that's the essay, go and write it. I was there when. He just fell down. Write an essay on that. What does that tell you? That you have to be super, super imaginative and creative to be able to write something. And that does not come from heaven. It comes from reading, from having read good authors, having, like, creating an argument. Now, you finish, you want to get into Harvard, you want to get into Brown, you want to get into Cornell, you still write an essay as an undergrad. They can tell you, they said, tell us about your culture. I've seen someone who just described the boy hasn't visited Nigeria only once, and he wrote about being a Nigerian, and that was the reason why he was given admission. So you can't just get admission because you got perfect score. It's a combination of factors. So when you leave this place, you need to begin to think how to reorganize, because your life, the concept of volunteering is a bit alien to us. Devote your time to certain things, because those things give you perspective, different eye to look at things in life. We are here this morning during the question and answer time. I discovered something today already. She's learning outside the normal system, which is kind of new here. I've learned that today. During the question and answer time, I will be learning something. I know I will learn 1 or 2 things that I don't know before. So I'm here today to volunteer my time. If I didn't volunteer that time, will I be able to get that perspective? I wouldn't. I want you to consider that. Now I will go to the slides. What was Uche Jude came in. He shook my hand. He said, "You have changed my life." I hear that a lot. And honestly, it's my biggest motivator. I hear that all over the world. People who call on Messenger, they say, "I must call you. I want to tell you something." And the commonest I hear is, "You have changed my life." And I always ask how, so I know what I should continue to do. Said, that undergraduate who wrote to Prof, who was frustrated, and that was what brought us here today. You wrote that you can change your own life, you can change the narrative by going to learn online. He told me, he said, "I went to Coursera and my jaw dropped. I've been reading ever since." And I'm trying to quote him in context. I memorized some words he said. Even my lecturers don't know Coursera. They don't know learning paths that you listed. And everything I need to know. I said, okay, now that you found it, is it easy? He said, hey, it's easy. I was focused on his facial expression. It's very easy. Everything simple. And I'm like, hey, I wish I had known this long ago. I just listed sites. Visit this site, the courses you are learning at school are there. And they even have videos. So you can watch the videos and you get to class, you'll be ahead of the class. So in this day and age, with your tablet, your computer, your telephone on your hand, you do not have any reason. Yes, the environment discourages you. I'm not trying to sugarcoat that or gloss over it. But you need to make the best of the situation. When is Nigeria educational system going to be revamped? I don't know. When will university be easy? I have no idea. I wrote an article in my Tuesday column about 2 months ago or 3 months ago. I wrote it there. I said university education is not for everybody. Yes, you read it? Yes. It's not for everybody. Why did I write that? I saw people at Obafemi Awolowo University sleeping on spine-destroying mattress on the balcony. How many people saw that photograph? You saw it? You saw? It's so scandalous. They were sleeping in their mama's wrapper, in prints, mattress without cover. I mean, you know that kind of mattress you see on lorries going to the north that they are going to use for that you think somebody has, some bedwetting children had destroyed the mattress. You know, they are so brown, tattered. They were sleeping on the balcony, and that was Fajui Hall. That's hostel. So we used to have 10 people to a room. Now you cannot have, the rooms ran out of room for people to sleep in. So people sleep on the balcony. A university. Now classrooms. People sit on stones to listen to lectures. People hang on windows. We know all those things. But what we are trying to do is to ask you that you should rise above that. Because what alternative do you have? Do you have the money to pay the tuition to go abroad? If you have it, you probably won't be in this room. But you still have it in you to compete with those who have it. That's why we are here. There are no laboratories. Let me tell you something. My daughter started secondary education. She schooled early childhood here up till last year. Then she went back to the US. I called him. Every time I call him, we are always, do we ever have time? It's about one Nigeria Wahala or the other. Then the list of books came in early August for the year. They recommended 8 books in literature for GS1. No be GS1, be for one. First year. Yeah, they recommended 8 books. And none of those books less than 295 pages for an 11-year-old. I'm like, eh? Okay. Now, she went to school. I think a week and a half after that, her teacher said they must see me on Skype. Oh, there's problem, blah, blah, blah. They were making so much heavy weather. What happened? They said my daughter refuses to wear diving suit to go and pick some insect at the bottom of the lake. I said, Omo, that one see cockroach, she will run away. You said she should wear. They said, yeah, diving suit to go and pick insects for one. Eh? Then I told her, I said, okay, you know what? She's afraid. I listened, I said, but she will learn. I'm happy to tell you, those who follow me on Facebook, there was a day I showed her holding a snake. You saw that? Yeah. Now, the girl that refuses to wear, do you know what they told me that I want to tell you now? The science teacher looked me in the face on Skype and said, I won't mention my daughter's name because I know this will be going public. We want you to know that your daughter should understand that attending this school is a privilege. I mean, they pay now. I mean, and that was what they enforced. They said, we want to make a scholar out of everybody. She cannot refuse to wear her diving suit. Guess what? By January of this year, she just held something. I left that phone. I should have brought it. I think I shared it with you, where she created DNA. I showed it to you. You know, and that day, tears were rolling down my face because I had I read biology for undergrad. Me, I don't know DNA. I have not extracted DNA up to today. My daughter extracted DNA and she now puts it in a pendant. She wears it. So she tells me my DNA is here. How did you extract the DNA? She said they gave us lemon to suck. Then we swabbed our cheek and we used an enzyme called lysine. There's no enzyme I don't know, but I've never seen them. Oh, excuse me. There's no enzyme I don't know. I have memorized all enzyme, all any chemical, anything. Ask me, I will tell you how it works, but I've never seen it. That's the quality of learning I got. So I'm going to tell you that that's what you are facing. And you will be facing people who actually did these things, who went through genuine process of learning. How are you going to excel? The only way you can excel is to use what is available to you. And a lot is available to you online. It's worse here in Nigeria, but people in India are learning from this same thing. People into value, they are learning the same thing. Go online. There are opportunities for webinars, web seminars. Look for them. Nigeria ranks the highest on Alexa rankings for people who visit pornographic sites. Highest in the world. And they belong to the youth demographic. Do not be part of that statistics. Use your data wisely. Look for conferences and see if you can deliver your own paper online. One of your Unilearning guy did that. And he has started setting himself up for life. Your laboratories may not have reagents. You might never do any experiments, but understand the principles and the process. I have a friend who had PhD in agronomy from Ibadan. Got to Penn State, you know him, I won't mention his name. He had to go and register for masters. He went postdoc. After that, he started his master's program all over again. He got PhD from Ibadan. That was 1997, not even now. Imagine. He had to start all over because he went there bragging about linear programming. They said, okay, what's that? What are you talking about? Then he knew he didn't know anything when he saw helicopters spraying crops with insecticide. He had to change. But today, world scholar teaching proudly in an American university. He competed and he did well. So this is a setback. Being in the Nigerian environment is a setback for you. You have so many things you need to think about. We argued over a point that the cost of university education, I said, unless you are attending a private university here, there's little or no cost to that. Compared to what people are paying all over the world. Education is not cheap. If you think education is cheap, try ignorance. Try ignorance. So if someone tells you, oh, you think because I'm not going to be an academic, I don't have to read this, it's a lie. No education is lost. On Facebook, some of you who understand Yoruba, you've probably seen me. He was joking with me during the break about those incantations in Yoruba that I started reeling out lately. I learned those things as a child with my grandfather. Sometimes when I say them, my father is like, when did you learn this? I say, when my grandfather used to say those things to me, that repeat after me, I memorized it. It's like, eh? I didn't know you know that. You know, the quality of a child's brain, very easy to mold. Go to Coursera today. For secondary school people, go to Khan Academy. Khan Academy is changing lives all over the world. I was so afraid of mathematics. That's why I said this thing did not start today. When I was in Form 2, that time they were phasing out modern school. Does anybody know what modern school is? There's a bridge between primary school and secondary school in those days. So these ladies had finished modern school and they came to Form 1. I was the youngest in my class. Our math teacher had started doing funny things with the big girls. So when I come to class, I get bored because he will make jest of me. He will put duster on my head, put chalk on my face. So when I see him coming, I just escape through the window. I was so agile. I could climb any tree in the world. I would just bolt through the window. That was how I started flunking mathematics. P7 or C6 that time. The grades now are confusing to me in math. People can't just relate it. But I had very bad foundation. I'll bolt through the door. I'll go away. But something somewhere changed everything. That is we mentioned role models. There was a deputy governor in Central Bank a few years ago called Dr. Obed Melafia. Obed Melafia was posted as a 22-year-old as a youth corper to my school in Akoko to teach. Then he taught us government. He was so brilliant. Up to today, Obed and Sanusi Lamido are the two polymaths that I know. Brilliant, super brilliant chap. When he comes to class, he had one of his hands slanted like this. All of us started walking like him. We wanted to be like him. First test, we got like 10 over 100. The school, everybody, we demonstrated, we wanted him gone. He said, we don't know nothing, that our brain we have exchanged ashes for our brain. He told us that we have to read, we have to read. Guess what? He inspired a generation. I will never forget. I told him when we reconnected, he was at Oxford in 1997, that you changed my life. Because we wanted to be like him, we wanted to be smart like him. He gave us the opportunity to do the exam again. Guess what? 85, 90. He told us how to read, how to answer questions. Remote Ondo State. That opportunity is what I'm representing to you this morning. That you need to begin to recognize opportunities. You need to look for resources and utilize them. If I want for a conference now, I don't have to ask anybody. I just Google. And a wealth of information will be presented to me. If they mention something I don't know at my age, I just go online, find out. I don't let it go. Immediately, I'll just grab my phone. I have not heard that before. One of those areas I don't know anything about in my life before I left Nigeria is music. Other than the bata, dundu that I listen to, I know nothing. Then, classical music. Yeah, I remember that time, WNBC, old Western Nigeria radio, they used at 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock, they play classical music, but they were just something that we know well. They play with piano. That's all I knew. Then I watched Jeopardy. They will ask questions about music. I'm like, notes, tone. What is that? What did I do? I immersed myself into that culture to learn about it. Today, when we were coming, he was mentioning that he needed to play some classical music. I just laughed. I didn't even say a word. The moment you start playing one now, I will tell you, oh, that's a concerto in C minor by what? Mozart. I will tell you right away because I learned it. There's nothing you can learn. There's nothing that you can't learn. And a mind that refuses to learn, what happens to that mind? It dies off, it withers. It withers away. You have to continue to learn. You have to continue to chart a path for yourself. Begin to think, what do I do well? I'll put out myself as an example. Today, I remember something he told me in 2012. September, when he visited me in Detroit. He told me, he said, Maybe he's forgotten. Bamidele, you killed the academic. Please do not kill the author. He told me in my house in Detroit, 2012. That time I took him seriously, and he was the one who inspired me to start writing. I never wrote for public before then. He saw one of my writings and said, what are you waiting for? You need to start writing. Do not kill the author. You killed the academic. He told you? And I took that to her. And today, I laugh. I go to gathering. Nobody mentioned MBA again. No. Nobody mentioned computer science. They will say, Bamidele, renowned columnist, journalist. I'm like, hey, Mike, where is that from? I'm not a journalist. I just write. I'm a farmer who writes. Today in Nigeria, you mention me, you associate me with my column. That is an opportunity that I did not recognize until 2012 when he started it. So I want you to look at yourself, look inward today. When you leave this place, what am I good at? I read biology, I've gone everywhere. I've degree in agriculture, business, computing, biology, everything. I've done everything. But if I had known who I was, I would probably have done well as a sociologist or a lawyer. But if you had mentioned that to me 35 years ago, I would say, Shogbado, Sheko Reo. I wouldn't. Sociology, that's for never do well people. Soshikini. But studying people and society is what I love. I got to know only at 45. You have the opportunity to know yours at 25, at 30. What do you like? What can you excel at? So you begin to focus on that area. There's a wealth of information out there you can leverage to become somebody. Not because, oh, I read chemistry. Because they couldn't give you any course at UI. They said, chemistry day. Can you go there? Yes. Isn't that what happens? That's what happens. And if you've had the background, you have the basic foundation, you have had it. You can now go to what you really like, specialize in it, and begin to explore your potential, because what? It will come naturally to you. That's why today, it's because I'm coming here. Many people have not seen me like this before. I will go to my farm, I will see the palm wine, I will sit down, I will absorb everything, come on Facebook, talk about it, it will look so, because that's what I like to do. People are taking tramadol, I go to their parties and try to look cool. They let me in, they won't know. I watch everything they do there. I come back, I write about it. Something is happening somewhere, I will take that opportunity, because that just comes naturally to me. So you those of you who are graduates, or the person who is practicing in a law firm, look at it. If law is what you really, really like to do, what area of law? Who are the best? Not only in this country, how do they litigate? There's a lawyer in Michigan. Michigan has the number of lawyers in my state of Michigan is more than the number of lawyers in the whole of Europe. Yes, Americans are that good at being lawyers. He has never lost a case. He's there. He has his website. You can see his methods. Defense attorney, that's what he does. The only time he has ever lost a case, he didn't even go to the court, because the man, Dr. Kevokian, who does assisted suicide, decided to represent himself, win himself from the guy, and he lost. But when he was defending him, he never loses. So if you are a young guy, you are in law, you want to cut your teeth, you look for the most controversial case and take it pro bono. You remember the case of Afmenza last year? The guy, rich kid, got drunk and killed someone, and the lawyer argued that it wasn't his fault. fault, sorry, because his parents were rich and they didn't teach him how to behave early. And he said that disease is called affluenza. He won. He won. Unleash your potential, unleash your creativity. And if education is not it for you, and you are here today, let me hear what that professor and that woman has to say. Me, I don't even want, it's a mistake, I went to school. If education is not that path for you, you've had the foundation. You want to be a business person. You can't be an entrepreneur without learning the ropes. Go and check how the best entrepreneurs, how have they succeeded? Read their biography. Go online. Everything is right there for you. I came into this country. I consider myself an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur. Honestly, I have failed spectacularly in 2 businesses. I mean, spectacular failure. And I've kind of succeeded in one. How? Because the Nigerian environment, as you are complaining about education, it has happened, right? The rot is in the hospitals, university, in the market. You want to buy something, tomato. Every tomato here is round. Nice. It's 500, you agree to pay. When they want to pour it for you, they'll put the bag like this, right? You won't see it. They do it like this, do it like this. When you get home, you say, the tomato under, they are very tiny. One, they are lacerated. Water is coming out. Sometimes maggot is coming out. You wonder, because you wonder, did I go to the market to buy this? Okay. Some people, they exchange things. You want to buy, they say, yeah, 500 naira. Between you're looking for the money and paying, he has switched what you want to buy. So it's not only in the education system. We have erosion of values in this country. That you are here is because you believe things can be better. So apart from my admonition that change, you have to become ambassadors of change. You have to do what is right. We all know what is right, unless we don't want to do it. Parents register their children in special centers. If you do that, you are contributing to the rot. You give your lecturer money to pass, you are contributing to the rot. So you have to be determined to change the system. You can still make it in this country. I live half of my life in this country. I'm not looking shabby, right?
No, you're not.
I'm not looking shabby. I don't have any contact with government, and I'm doing business in this country. So you can still make it by honest way. I will let him talk, so we go into the new global knowledge economy that you must subscribe to, even if you don't want to pursue education more than your graduate degree.
Thank you, Bamidele. So like we did for the first session, I'm just going to sort of bounce off a few of the points that she's made, but with a different set of anecdotes. Recently, I don't remember if it was in Ghana or South Africa, but recently I bumped into a guy who was saved by angel. And coming here today, I was wondering how many of you have been saved by an angel, or are going to be saved by an angel, you know, because angel is again at the background of everything that we have been talking about in terms of your ability to unleash your potentials and then maximize opportunities beyond the limitations and strictures of your context here in Nigeria. So in terms of having things really bad, contextually, you know, the hostels, the facilities, the resources, the absolute despicable, you know, I don't even, there are no words to describe the context in which we operate. You know, recently I was discussing with a friend of mine, Dr. Shola Olonyomi. You know, he's an old war, an activist, you know, and he's fought all the battles, you know, with the global left movement and all that. You know, when you have a Nigerian who went to Nicaragua to fight on the side of the Sandinistas, to pick up arms in the 80s to fight American imperialism, so you can't be more left than Dr. Olong. So of course, he's very despondent. He's at the University of Ibadan. And he was telling me that, look, we used to hide under exploitation. Oh, neocolonialism, oh, you know, the West is exploiting us. That's what is responsible for our condition. But nowadays, he has begun to rethink that. We are too underdeveloped, too backward to be exploited by the West. Those who want to exploit you, they have capitalist motive, right? Quick, mega profits. That, in fact, colonialism was a form of exploitation based on profits. And in this day of hyper-technology, hyper-modernity, you have to be at a certain level of development to be worth exploiting. They will go to, okay, we can't be exploiting this Stone Age. What you will have to put in to be able to exploit these people is just too much. You have to bring in light, these people are in the Stone Age. So let us move to the 19th century in Ghana. That is more profitable for us to exploit people. So we are now officially even too underdeveloped to be worth the time of any serious exploiter. We are outside of history, outside of time. That is how I see our institutions. But in all that, you cannot be worse off than some folks from certain parts of this continent. If somebody is coming from out of South Sudan, or certain parts of Somalia, or certain parts of DRC, you know, where you have active, you know, decades-long, absolute, what do you call it? Crisis conditions. Conditions. But I met this guy. So your condition cannot be worse off than that of an undergraduate coming out of South Sudan, no matter how bad you think it is in Nigeria. But I bumped into this guy on his way to a fully funded PhD scholarship in one of the Ivy League schools. It's starting in September in the US. So I got curious and started asking, so how did you do it? In the middle of all your wars and conflict, you don't even have a university to speak of, you know. We have universities to complain about. Maybe we have structures and then we can say that these ones are in the 17th century. You don't even have, you know, so how on earth did you do it? And when he started to tell me his story, I kept thinking, this guy is knocking out all the alibis and the excuses that I hear from the hundreds of thousands of Nigerian undergraduates that I'm privileged to mentor using social media, Prof, including Peter, who wrote, and we got the idea that Bamidele should offer that viral response to him. So I said, oh, angel saved you. And he said, what's angel? So I ask you, what's angel? Do you know what angel is? Do you know what it is? That's an acronym. A new global environment for learning. Because this guy starts to describe to me his online undergraduate courses, his trips through Harvard X, hundreds of free. This new global environment for learning, it's because the world's institutions, the educational institutions, are starting to realize that they need to democratize access to knowledge if we are to reinforce the basis for the new global knowledge economy. So increasingly, there is hardly a university worthy of that name whose website you'll visit without seeing some courses across a broad range of fields. She already mentioned courses, but you can go to specific schools. I want courses from Harvard. These are legitimate, free Harvard courses. Every imaginable field. You go to Yale. Some call them free courses. Some call them open courses. You don't have to pay CC. And this guy tells me that, look, reception is so poor and all that, I would climb trees in the middle of war to down. That is how I built myself to be able to attain the competitive position for that score. He's going for a PhD, fully funded. Spent 4 or 5 years in the middle of war climbing trees to download free and just educate and broaden his horizon. So, what's your excuse? What's your excuse? What's your alibi in Nigeria when these things are there, they're just a click away? The best courses, the best seminars, the best webinars from the world's elite universities. So you've got to form that habit of, we always joke around on social media, but that's serious. It's not just a joke on Facebook that Nigerians are allergic to Google. To us, it is second nature. 99% of the questions I get asked inbox, Prof, my friend, I'm going to Google the answer and tell you now. So, and the time you have spent, it's like something, maybe it's Google has become part of a global culture. It's as go to the Ifa Oreku, consult that Ifa Oreku, it's called Google. Stop asking me, go to Ifa. But in this country, folks are allergic to it. Everything they can get, people are clicking away on Google and all that. People will not ask Google, they'll ask her, they'll ask me and all that. No. I need you to form that habit, acquire that habit, because if you don't, you are on your way out of Angel. Angel is a community. Angel is a new system of democratized access to the global knowledge economy. And Angel believes that democracy of knowledge is in your palms. It's a click away. You are the agent in Angel. Nobody's going to. So you've got to form the habit of going to these places to build your knowledge base. And apart from that, you've got to cultivate the habit of mixing and mingling in the right knowledge communities and hubs. Somebody just mentioned the case of the guy who participated in our conference. My institute, you know, I'm the director of an Institute of African Studies in a Canadian university. And we run the only, it's going to its 3rd edition now, the only undergraduate international research conference, Africa Research Conference in North America. It's a very big conference, but it's to catch undergraduates. It's run entirely by undergraduate students, but it's an international conference and all that. The guy you were all talking about, a 400 level student at the University of Ilorin. How did he get to hear about the conference in the first instance? I didn't even put it on my wall, so he wasn't even following me, so you can't even claim that maybe it's on, you know. He is an active networker in Angel. He's a member, he's in the right company. He's in the right groups. And so he got to know about it, put in for this thing. We tried to get him funding, but it was a little bit too late for him to get a visa. And he said, you know what, Prof, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come in by Skype. I said, yeah. He should come in by Skype. Then at some point we thought, this Nigerian network, you know, you can't risk it in the middle of his, what if he lost connection and all that? And we don't want to start, we don't want Nigeria to embarrass us basically in the middle of, of an international conference presentation. So he said, Prof, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sit down somewhere in Ilorin and record my presentation. So I'm going to videotape my presentation, send it, you upload it, and I'll be on Skype waiting while it is playing. Then when it is done, at least you can guarantee that that one will not be interrupted by network issues. Then the Q&A session will then kick in. We were so impressed by that work ethic, that art. This is a millennial. So by now, I'm starting to think, where on earth did this guy emerge from? Where on earth? This Nigeria. So there are people thinking right, in Ilorin. Anyway, brilliant presentation, serious networking with all the members who were particularly fascinated by, and the effort, the length, what he went, you know. And so everybody is interested in him. I am interested in him, in a follow-up. So anyway, this guy is a law student. He's in his final year. We can't let this thing end. That is what networking does. So I started to link him up. I linked him up with the late Deepo of Pharmakin, who took up his case at Dawn. He even interned at Dawn. Thank you. He interned at Dawn, development agenda. But for the tragedy that befell us, you know, Deepo's death, only God knows where Deepo was taking that boy's case to. But there was something else I also did. While linking him up with Deepo, I was also talking to a very senior Nigerian professor at Osgood. Osgood Law School at York University is the most prestigious law school in Canada. And that professor and I were mates back at UBC. He was doing his PhD in law, and I was doing mine in French. He's now the current, he's taking some leave from Osgood to come and serve as the current Commissioner for Education in Abia State. So he's the current Ikechi Mbeoji. I found him in Abia. I said, oh boy, come on. Forget this, your commissioner, something for a while. There is something seriously happening here. Here is this guy. And I told him this. What? Give him he has to come to Osgood. Once he's done serving and his law school, he's got to come to Osgood. We've got to get him to come to Osgood. So Ikechi is on that case as I speak. So you've got to be in the right environment. And part of being in the right environment, my very last point, you have lost the right to You see, every time, Nigerians are very good at monitoring stuff like this. They know when the announcements are made. MIT, this, and you know these days, everybody is running something for genius, innovation. Facebook has some. MIT does this every year. The BBC does, 39 best innovators. And when innovation is a very big canopy for these people. And once in a while, you see Nigerians, they say, Prof, it's out to, it's out to. I say, yeah, I monitor all of these things. So, it's my duty to monitor them too. But Nigerian millennials who follow these things, they don't follow it with the right attitude. They don't follow it with the right attitude. They think that these bios and pictures and they are just there to give them news about why these, if you click on each one, you'll see why they were selected, their bio and all that. For the Nigerian followers of stuff like this, it gives you news. It stops there. For my undergraduates, under 35 or graduate students in Canada, in the US, in Europe, who are very active angel people, they are part of what we're talking about. And even for some of my folks in Ghana, your demographic in Ghana, these bios have a totally different purpose. You're reading the profiles, and they are telling you what they did to make the list. Very often, there is their contact. What? Very often, there is their contact details. They put an email. Anywhere you see an email, at the bottom of the bio of winners of stuff like this, they have sought their consent. Your demographic all over the world would benefit from networking with you, getting in touch with you, being in your circuit. Would you mind publishing your details so that folks like you can, interact with your mind? They always ask. There is that. So once you see it there, you can engage these geniuses. And so I tell my Nigerian, have you written to any of them? Okay, be there. The Ghanaians are emailing them. The South Africans are doing. My students all over Canada and the US, these bios are not just published for you to say, this is what they did. Get active. That is how Angel works. You roll from the MIT list to the BBC list to these things. Once you see one, usually it takes you. There are literally thousands. Facebook. They keep coming and coming and coming. Best innovators, the youngest this, the youngest that, and you see best 30, best 40, best. So get into that world. See what people are doing, and it could also even for some of you who don't want to. You'll see that. The things that people are doing here, it's not just academic work. These are all kinds, business, industry, name the sector. Young people are changing the future. But one thing you must also learn when you go through these bios, starting with, if I were you, I would go through the 2016 and the 2015 and see the amazing range of of genius and human, daring that is lifting us to the future, from your generation and your demographic. Take it seriously, but read each profile and also ask yourself, are these guys just making this list on a basis of, I'm a creator and all, but I won't read? Every single profile you are going to see, the foundations, whether they are in the university or not, you will see that I didn't go through any traditional something, but I'm, my neighborhood library growing up. I spent my life there. My community library, that is where I spend 16 hours every day out of, you will see some story that is going back. You can't escape it. You will see some story that is going back to the nurturing of the mind. So please combine these things. Become active members of Angel. This is a very religious country. Let Angel save you. Okay? Thank you. So now we just do our Q&A interactive. I know the day is fast spent. And so we'll have you moderate.
So I get what you're saying and how education is like really important in like today's world and how we like need to get ourselves acquainted with everything that is going on. But for someone like me, how do you stay motivated? Obviously, okay, I started this course, forensic accounting, on Coursera like a while back, but then I didn't finish it. I could use the excuse of time, but then that's not really an excuse. So my question is, how do you stay motivated? That's okay.
So are we taking all the questions?
Let's take like maybe three, yeah, and then.
Okay, it wasn't a question per se, more or less a comment.
Okay.
A personal experience, which as it were has become a kind of impediment for me. I'm a lawyer, and the gist is, when you are trying to, that against all odds, you want to get something done, against all odds, the tendency to then achieve it by hook or by crook. And I'm trying, I don't want to paint the picture, but the gist is, you've made up your mind that, see, there is no excuse for failure. I must get this thing done, against all odds. That is the original intent and intention. But along the line, it appears it has to be done by hook or by crook, which of course is wrong. So, and that thing now, fine and good, the dream actualized, but along the line, some of those compromises now, unfortunately, have become a kind of impediment for further pursuits. And so let me damn the consequences by saying it. This idea of subscribing to official age.
Official age?
Yes.
What? Okay, cutting, okay.
So, because I had to go back to write O-level, like more or less, I had to go back to write O-level 2007, just to ensure that I pursue law. I haven't left secondary school in 1995. So, and there was no way you can sit for, internal examination when, so it was it's so funny. So that's why I said comment, this of it. So, and the trouble is, now finding it difficult, more or less on a daily basis, to right the wrong, to remedy the impediments. So, and on a final note, sir, I think from all indications, you are both qualified to be called activists. From all indications. Advocates.
Yeah, I prefer advocates, actually.
I don't want
Yeah. I prefer advocate. Yeah.
Now what I do, anytime I'm aware that Prof is around and there's going to be this kind of section, what I do is I mobilize people, as in like minds, younger ones that have the misfortune of teleguiding. So I say, you will be here, so you guys should come. but this time around, because I got to know very late, so there's no way I could do all that. Now, advocates, fine and good. I don't know, so far so good. Because it's thank God that it's not a thankless job. Some of us who have been inspired, we are trying to, especially Prof, trying to, against all odds. But then, Auntie, how do you feel when a consistent follower of yours on Facebook, consistent follower of yours for ages, you can argue it very convincingly that the thought process is still more or less static. You then begin to wonder that. So how do you feel when you come across such? Do you feel dejected that in spite of the electronic intimacy, regular liker, regular commenters on my wall, you are still retrogressive in your thought process? Do you feel disappointed when you come across such? And Prof, something pretty happened when the issue of Dinomelai cropped up. They listed names of professors from that Central District, and I saw your name, and I sympathized with you. So, sir, in a not distant future, is there any likelihood of possibilities of you, contesting for election or review, just to maximize this thing we are doing? When Shore posted on Facebook, Egbo actually said only for 20 people. So, and I got there, this countenance a bit funny to me. I was like, could it be people did not see it or what? So, if the turnout is not impressive enough, I don't know what the trouble is. I don't know what's responsible for that.
They said they couldn't register, but I'm sure it's more than that.
Yeah. So let me just stop for now. Okay. Let me stop for now. And when Auntie finished talking the other time, I felt like when you were talking at a point, luckily for me, the young man didn't see me. I was crying at a stage. There were certain things you said that really touched me. So when you finished talking, by reflex, I wanted to clap, but nobody followed suit. So and I has that. I will prohibit her from clapping. So, and they said yes. So I want to suggest I will clap for her now, please.
I'm inspired now. Thank you very much, Prof. And Mommy, for that very good session. My question is this, and it's more of a question, and maybe, okay, let me take out the comments part of it.
No,
because,
please.
Okay.
You can have both. Why not?
Because there's this philosopher we all know about, Paulo Freire, who explained the African education as, he called it the banking system.
The banking system of education.
That's what we practice in Africa. You just drop it and you withdraw. You save, withdraw. And
pedagogy of the
that's what we that's what's happening in our tertiary institutions especially. But I have understudied Finland, and it's ranked as one of the best educationally in the world. And one very amazing fact about Finland is, one, they do not go to school until they are 7 years old. For the first 6 years of their life, they don't. There are no tests, no examination, no results. No results. So from 9 a.m. to no reports. Yes, no reports. 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's the time they spend in school. And after that, there are no chance for any extramural classes and all that. But yet, these people, they're being ranked best educationally. Now, I want to understand, because we were talking about reading, you bury your head in one library and all that. So how did they manage to be ranked in that aspect? Because I still don't understand that. Is it as if they did something very different from what we are learning here? or because I don't really understand, because the extramural thing has been taken away from them. They don't read like we read here. I know, just because of the economy, I know women who would, right from the age of, let's say, 1, 2, the child is already in one daycare. Just because the mom must wake up as early as possible to go to her workplace. So from there, the whole thing starts so early. Yet, we are not where they are academically, or let me even say, we are not where they are educationally. So I don't really understand that. I think you would do justice to that.
Okay, we can. Oh, okay, maybe because of time we should also, and then, but after her, then we have to.
Do I stand?
Are there more people? Are there more people coming in? Questions or comments? Let's see how many we have left. 2, 3. Okay, so we can take hers and then. Yeah, but we can. So we can take hers, but can't keep it short. Answers what? Okay. So we take hers and then wrap up with yours as a new set. Okay. Please go ahead.
Okay, I want to thank everybody who's here for today. My question may not necessarily be related to what we're talking about, but I think it should be answered. So, so lately we have a situation where we find that Nigerian educational system seems to be having troubles adjusting to students, activists, advocates, you know. We have K. Bello, who's been suspended. It's a sad situation, yes. So my question then is, how would the both of you react to a scenario like this? Because the narrative on Twitter is that, why don't you finish school and then come out of school and then how to criticize the situation? Why must you go there and now form, okay, this school is bad? I mean, some people say, you're even in Abuja campus and things are better. We're in Enugu campus and it's worse. Yet these students have to suffer for the rest of the other fellows. So how are your reactions to this? Okay. Thank you.
I'll start with hers. Institutional official responses to the idea of active student engagement, or it's actually not new. You said it's recent. It's just, you know, incidentally we are in a space. We are in a space conceptualized and founded by Jowore and SaharaReporters. So Jowore and his history of engagement, you know, with, but even Jowore is even a much later, you know, generation. So as, yeah, of course, there have been so student activity. In fact, that's one of the things if there's any reason I'm actually proud of the Nigerian university system, is that despite all the odds, despite official tyranny, both at the level of institutional administration and even on the part of the state, student activism, you know, student unionism has defied all odds, you know, to still be very, because you cannot, you know, because one of the people tend to forget, and especially admins, one of the very reasons why we have universities in the first place is to produce critical minds that can engage. And so that's what students ought to do. You know, of course, you know, there have been, you know, along the lines, there have been opportunistic kinds of, you know, so you even have a situation where even cultists would say that they are activists or they are, you know, but that are all kinds of real serious distractions from, but then there's that history, sacrosanct as far as I'm concerned, history of robust student engagement, you know, that we have in this country. And quite frankly, I tell, because even in the universities of the West, you know, they have unions too. They have unions too, and their unions are always threatening to, of course, their own idea of aluta is picketing, and they picket, but then authorities take them seriously, they negotiate. We hear that they are negotiating and this and that. So it comes with the territory of the intellectual space. Now, I do not know the particulars of the story of that young man. I do not know, because I've read, you know, every time I'm swayed by his story, then I hear other sides, so I don't know the particulars. But the basic framework beyond his own case, in terms of course, yeah, it should continue. Students should be able to critique, to challenge, and it doesn't even have to be unions. I'm just coming from a university where we have spent the last 2 weeks training young lecturers. So they would be assistant lecturers to senior lecturers, because that's part of what I do across the continent. Now I go around, we're training that demographic, because we are realizing that part of the problem with the university system, especially in this country, is that those who are even teaching and training the undergraduates, let me not say it. Let me not say it. So that's part of the system. So if you see me in Africa now, in Nigeria, this is, in the last 5 years, this is the first time I'm really actually dealing with undergraduates. When I come to train lecturers, hoping that that drop in the ocean would. But when we ended the program last week, and we asked for reaction, feedback from all the lecturers in the room, you know, these are, you know, early to mid-career lecturers. Some of them were almost in tears, saying, you know, you, Professor Tejumala-Olani, Professor Adeko, Professor, these are legendary names we hear. And in the last 10 days, you've been here with us. So ordinary, we've been rapping, and then your work ethic. Every day from 2 to 3, we fix individual meeting times. None of you was ever late. None of you missed a single day of the individual. And then we just come, you say, and then you buy groundnuts, we eat as we are talking. I say, do you know what it means to even approach a professor at your level in Nigeria? You know, everything is, So the whole thing confused them. The whole thing confused them. It's like, so this is, now, these are lecturers. Imagine undergraduate students to professors, and so there's a certain dynamic that must change. Undergraduates need to be able, when I shared with another gang of undergraduates, or group, not gang, group of Nigerian undergraduates, because I encourage my undergraduates, when we are going for the summer break, when everybody is traveling, I will share my reading list. These are the interesting books that I want to read for this summer. And then they also must share their list, because right from 100 level, they are partners in the production of knowledge. They are partners. I'm just like a senior partner, but we are partners in the production of knowledge. So if there's any book you are, so I was somewhere, and then an email pops up from one of my 200 level students. Professor, if you have not read this book, add it to that your list too. And so I was very excited. I said, thank you, doing something about Africans, something. So I didn't know that the 2 Nigerian undergraduates, it was in Ghana, but then these were Nigerian undergraduates who had come for the seminar they had come for the seminar or something in Ghana to meet with their graduate brothers who were attending. They had come to see their graduate, because the seminar was for graduate students, but these were undergraduates who had come to see I didn't know that they were looking at me as I'm excited and then trying to respond to thank. Prof, you say this person is in 200 level. I said yes. And he's, or he or she or whoever is recommending books to you and saying if you haven't read, and you are dancing excitedly, happy and thanking. I said, but that's the relationship. So you need to also have that attitude, you know, that idea of yourself as a critical agent in the production of knowledge, as a partner, must not be conceded to official narratives and attitudes, you know, to you as, So, but it doesn't also mean that, again, like I said, there are cases in which such things are derailed by people who are outright, you know, but that should be the model. So I'm absolutely in support of critical engagements. If they cannot engage you or critique you, then you have even lost your moral basis. Yeah. How does she stay motivated? That's the very important one.
You see, motivation, so many arguments exist. Some people say yes, but we know that after a certain point, money loses utility, right? When you have money up to a certain point, then it's of no value again. Okay. Is knowledge a motivator? Yes. Is there a utility to it? Does it cease to exist? No. That's why knowledge is different than money. And in terms of, there's a guy on my wall, I don't want to mention his name. I don't know what he read in the university. One day I was in the US, he just sent me an email. Said, please, I want to order some cameras from Amazon. Will you be able to help me bring them? I'm like, hey, camera. Number one, if custom catches me with those cameras, the duty I will pay. Anyway, I felt, let me encourage the young man. I'll carry the cameras. I didn't ask him any questions. Then I said, well, my home address, I'm giving you. If you ever give it out, I will never forgive you. I sent my home address. He ordered those things, paid for them. I had to put those things in my hand luggage. Brought it to Nigeria for him. I did that twice. He taught himself how to take photographs, how to do video. Today he shoots video for Nollywood today. He's on my wall. Self-taught, cinematography, I'll be waiting at the column. Now he has a channel on YouTube. He confided in me that he earns about 1,800, 2,000 from his channel every month. dollar, yes. And they pay directly into his account. You know, all those things you click, it yields money for some people. You should start yielding money for me soon. Yes. How do you stay motivated in this space? You stay motivated by knowledge. That's what I think. Not by money. In whatever endeavor, be it education, be it your business, you have to continue to innovate. You have to continue to innovate to be able to tackle whatever challenge comes your way. For me, based on the little I know and I have experienced, the only thing that motivates me is challenge, and you cannot tackle any challenge without having knowledge. When I'm challenged, each time I'm challenged and I want to overcome it, I have to learn something new to be able to overcome that challenge. As long as I'm not challenged, I don't feel motivated. I don't even feel like getting up from bed. Every challenge, I take it very seriously. I must tackle this thing and I must win. In this very hostile environment, you should look towards that challenge with the aim of conquering that challenge. That challenge should motivate you to aim higher, to overcome, to earn, to make a name for yourself, to get things done all by yourself in whatever way or whatever you are engaged in. That is what I know practically. And that is the thing I see in the eyes of those people who sell gala to me, to people in the, I don't buy gala, in the traffic. People who, the market woman, you wrote something yesterday about buying things on the roadside. You see, daily they have to face the challenge of what? Putting food on the table. One day I was at Kappa and one woman was trying to bring out big bags of plantain from the back of a danfo. I just looked at that woman. How is she going to do it? She's still going to roast that plantain and probably feed her own. So the only thing that she's focused on is putting food on the table. That challenge to overcome hunger. And that continues to motivate. In a hostile environment where you don't have support, where you don't have anything, is the knowledge to do better by overcoming your challenge. That is how to stay motivated. That is the way I know. And on your question, one thing that drives universities abroad is tuition. You pay to attend classes, you grade your lecturers. You grade your lecturers. It is hard. If somebody is your master paying your salary, it's hard to disrespect that person. The time we begin to pay our fair share to acquire education, education will improve in this country. But as long as we have this feeding bottom university that gets money from the federal government or the state government, they will continue to disrespect students. But when you begin to pay something, unfortunately everybody fights that, oh, it's because you went to school for free. That's why you said university is not for everyone. Even technical colleges, if you pay something and your money is being used to pay lecturers, they cannot dismiss you. They cannot maltreat you. They cannot treat you as if you are nothing. But as long as we rely on government to do this, government to do that, we will continue to be disrespected. No, you can't rusticate someone who paid $26,000 a year to go to school and send that person out for saying, for exercising freedom of speech. It's not possible. It's not possible. And never, never subjugate your ability to critique, because it shows you are thinking. Never, never leave that. If you die, you die. That's what I believe in. If you kill me, you can't kill my mouth until the last breath I draw. And when I see evil anywhere, I think that is inbuilt in me. I reject it with every fiber of my being. I don't know the story of the guy, just like he said, I don't know his story. But when you see evil, be it in your home, in your church, let people know where you stand. You will suffer for it, but people will know you take those bruises on their behalf, and you'll be respected for it. Even if you are not respected for it, your conscience will be very clear that you stand right on the path of justice.
One quick thing that I almost forgot, and then we'll take. Oh,
there's a new hand.
Can you add your hand to? I actually wanted to
we need to round up.
One second.
I'm counting now. Thank you very much. I quickly want to add something to the response Sister Bamidele gave the lady was about motivation. One thing that I have, over time, I have learned that if whatever you carry on your head or in your hand has value, you can be sure it's going to attract a lot of attention. In history, over the course of human history, we have found that the tendency of the larger section of the society is to exterminate every light that comes up. It is the resilience of the light or the light bearer that actually results into sustenance of most of those time-honored values that we see now. If you are not resilient about what you bear, it will be exterminated. You could experiment with a candle in the night. There will be some moth that you never knew exists around your house that will naturally come close to that candle with a view to exterminating it. So, you see, you carry the burden of making sure that what you value doesn't die out early. My own means of staying motivated is by staying close to people that can challenge me. And I think Prof mentioned that thing earlier on. Getting yourself involved with the proper ecology of knowledge matters. Who are the look, personally, I have a fairly good job. And I told Sister something that early in 2016, I decided that I was going to reduce my Facebook posts and I was going to start learning from people that have gone ahead of me. 24 years ago, I left the university 24 years ago. We had aspirations about the kind of technical knowledge we wish to have. We had aspiration about the kind of achievement. I remember my first PhD proposal. It was laced with beautiful, high-sounding technological things, and my professor then said, "Are you sure you are going to be able to get this equipment?" I said, "Prof, don't worry, I will get them." I've learned better now. I've experienced all of those technological things. And I've also seen a little bit of money. All of the technological things, and they have died out. But you know what? There's that flicker of hope in the idea and values behind my aspirations that has refused to die. And the only way that has been sustained is that I allowed people that are not only by far better than me in the subject matter, but I've also weathered storms which I had no idea how they look. I ingratiate myself towards them. I allow people who are better than me to surround, people that can look me in the face and correct me and tell me to go to places if I do anything wrong. Yesterday I was coming to Lagos and Sister called me and she said, "Jide, where are you?" I couldn't lie. I just said, "You know what, Sister? I'll be late. I will come to Lagos late." I knew there was no way I would be at Lagos earlier than 10. I said I will be late too. Earliest will be between 7:30, 8. Okay. Make sure you don't travel in the night too. Around 9 p.m. she called me. 30 minutes after the time I promised. And I told her that I'm around Oreo. I just didn't want to tell you the other time that I was coming to Ondo. If she was somebody that I could look in the face and talk to anyhow, I would say, "Oh boy, would you just leave me alone? Let me concentrate on my driving." But the sheer fear that this person will reprimand me because she said, "Don't travel in the night." And I was already traveling in the night. Look, my youngest children are 11 years old. I'm not a young man anymore. I'm not a baby anymore. But I still have people that I can fear. People that can control and correct me. We start having problems when we listen to those people who want to abort the vision we carry by telling us that follow your dream. It's not easy to follow dream. Oh. It is not easy at all. It's not easy. You have to have people who can mentor you. You have to have people that you are looking at. You have to have value, people that carry the value that carry. And don't forget what I said, though. The experiences and the aspirations you have is one department of learning, and I think those are about the littlest of all the things you know. There are massive experiences that you don't even have any knowledge about that those people have been through. Ingratiate yourself towards them. Move around with them. Let them mentor you. When you are dying off, they are the ones that will give you new leases of life. They are the ones that will pep you up. They are the ones that can, even when it comes to making money and getting whatever, they are the ones that can recommend you if you still want to get all the money. But if you think you can run it alone, well, just listen to what one wise man said. He said, if you want to get where you are going to fast, how did they even put it? You want, yes, travel alone. But you want to run far, go with people. Okay? Thank you very much.
So
it has not been answered, mine.
The Finland.
The Finland and Nigeria.
In fact, I even have a question for you because you mentioned something about them. I've not been to Finland, but I'm familiar with Scandinavia generally. You know, I know Sweden and Denmark and Norway to some extent. So I know that Western Europe has trouble competing with. In fact, they can't compete with Scandinavia. Scandinavia is on so many indices and metrics, you know, far ahead, you know, of Western Europe, even, you know, in terms of their education. And then you said they don't read as much as I was wondering where you...
Comparing, looking at the facts.
Which...
Talking about the time, the facts are there.
That we read more than they read over there?
No. What I'm saying is this.
I think what you meant is that... Yeah, I think what you meant is that we do it in much more dire circumstances than. Is that what you were trying to?
I think so.
Is that what you were?
Because, yes.
He said people will go to school early. They don't go to school.
They don't go to school.
Age 7.
Okay, is that what you are saying? Yeah. Oh yes. Okay. So that's what you are saying.
When they write exams, they don't write exams. They don't get reports. That I'm not familiar with Norway, but maybe they are trying to engage creativity. Yeah. Because I have a slight experience, you know, all my life when we were growing up, no public schools, private schools as such. Then this Montessori model, that's the one I can quickly relate to the Finland experience. Montessori lets the child be himself or herself. So you learn at your own pace. What I have found, you see, each system has its own pros and cons. I went through the 2 times 1, 2, 2 times 2. My daughter went through Montessori. I was able to see Montessori. Let me give you critical appraisal now. When she wanted to write the exam to go into her school in the US, the first mock question I served her, she's got 22%. And I'm like, Shagbafo, what is this? We did, That day, I regretted that she didn't go to Corona. Corona is classic traditional school where you memorize okay, because when she was going through, she was so slow, taking her time, then this one, she's very lazy about it because the Montessori experience is based on the experiential learning by a child compared to where this your own one like that. She can be learning SCM up to when she wants to get out. Now, I told her forget about. So I put her through rigorous like boot camp. Goodness, she passed. But what got her that? That is what these Western countries have, creativity. Let me give you an example. I posted this on Facebook that time. The interview, she scored right. But the interview, when she was filling her application form, she wrote it that she's very creative. In teacher's recommendation from school, they wrote it there that she's creative. When I was filling the parent side of the application form, which was like PhD exam, I wrote it there that she's creative. During the interview, the man who interviewed her said, tell me about yourself. The first thing she said, I'm creative. The man nodded. On Skype, I was at the door because they said I should get out of the room. Then later the man said, what will your friends say about you? So my friend will say I'm creative, I'm caring, and I think compassionate or something like that. The man said, wait. What is this about creativity you kept mentioning? What is creativity to you? Hey, I was there. I said, hey, that's a heavy question. Do you know how she answered? She said, thank you. I know I'm creative because I see things the way people don't see it. I know I'm creative because I have artistic powers and I can see things from another perspective. She went on and on. I was already dancing by the door. Now, what is that about creativity? That was what Montessori did to her. She is able to express herself without being shut down. That's what they do that early in those systems. They let the person come out. Here, we put you in a box and we don't let you express yourself. Today, when I was in the US, when they bring anything that requires analysis, come and see me. I'll be forming. But when it comes to practical things, I can't even think. I'll be like, why? An American will solve the question like this. American will solve the question and face the repercussion later. Solve the problem. That's why they have software that they're always fixing bugs. If you leave a Nigerian to design, it will be very hard to find a bug. But Americans, they will design it anyhow, push it out. Later, we fix it. That is the mentality. The interface will be nice. It will attract you, but there will be loopholes. So we are reflective. They are practical. It's the method of education. So I think that's what it is. Not that they read more than us. We don't read here.
That's
we have no reading culture. We have lost it. We do not read. When you meet, if you travel outside this country, you are in the aeroplane, look at the Nigerian children. They are playing game or sleeping. The American or white, they have stacks of books they will be reading in the aircraft. You wonder, they are always holding a book.
We don't read here.
We don't read here.
We read that now.
We
were supposed to be somewhere at 3. So now it's almost 3:30.
It's almost 3:30.
So now we can take maybe just 2 more. Sorry.
Since it's 2 more, I'll ask my question first.
You should ask your question last.
I wrote what I want to say here so that I don't dilly-dally so much. And it's about education and leadership. I'm scared to share this opinion because, I know that Professor Pius Adesanmi and Madam Bamidele are intellectual and advocate of erudition. Also because I am afraid of being seen as being myopic. However, as much as I agree that we must read as much as possible, it is very important to read so that we get enlightened. I also feel that one does not need to consume all of the books in the library to become great leader. I read a book one time, The Outliers, and one great information that I got from The Outliers was that you just need to have known enough. You don't need to know everything in the world. Well, we can't really know everything, but what I'm trying to say is you don't need to have read so much. You just need to be enough, adequate enough. So my question is, what read is enough?
Let me take that one quickly. I'm very happy you raised this question, because when we're telling people to read, have a library, have a home library, immerse yourself in literature, broadly defined. Sometimes I get people sending me pictures of their libraries. Are you listening? I need you to listen. Folks from all over the country, Prof, I'm following your something, and then they send me pictures of their libraries. And then you see 1,000 books, all motivational books. There is a menace of motivational books written by crappy American and European nonsensical authors who have no clue what they are talking about. And they have largely somebody will sit down in a basement in America, cannot pay his bills or rents, and write how to make a fortune, and then they come here to make millions. Yeah. So we have that danger in this society. Now, when people are saying that you've got to be erudite, there is by no means any implication that anybody can. Plato didn't know it all. So that's not the premise for what we call erudition. The acquisition of total knowledge. There's no such thing as total knowledge. In fact, erudition, by definition, is that constant thirst for more, because you don't know it all. Continuous learning, continuous broadening of one's horizon. And we're saying that, in fact, there's no, go and read biographies of some of the world's greatest leaders. You know, whether it's Nigerians love to quote the man from Malaysia, what's his name? I'm blanking out now, we've been talking. Yeah, go and read, you know, whether some of them didn't even go to school. One of the greatest thinkers in this continent is a man called, he's not very well known to Anglophone audiences, but globally he's big. You know, a man called Usman Sembène. He's big, you know, global African cinema, African fiction, African intellectual thought and all that. You know, Sembène Usman hardly ever finished primary school. Then sailed off to Marseille to work as a docker, as a, you know, carrying, and then would read at night. And taught himself to read and write, but spent a life of quest for knowledge. So you cannot know it all. Erudition is by definition, you know, the development of that perpetual thirst and hunger to deepen your knowledge base. And that's what we're talking about. And no system is really going to take you seriously. You know, you can take that from me if you have an apathetic attitude to deepening knowledge. So you know, that's in fact, why do you think that all these unserious jokers who are leading Nigeria, call themselves leaders and all that, why do you think that despite their, we've already mentioned their children, after their children that they send abroad, what is the next most important thing that they fancy? Harvard. They are always going for crook courses. They are going for training seminar, their leadership institute. And thank you. The American system has wisened up to that. So they create all kinds of useless to make, you know, and these people will go and pay, you know, something they can get at the Institute of Art near here, or Institute of African Studies in Ibadan for, they will go and pay hundreds of millions to some quack American, and then they go and come back, Harvard trained this and that. In fact, you know that the current Senate president, when he was the chairman of the Governors Forum, you know that he went to go and, what was this thing? He was coming with a group of governors to Harvard. This same leadership institute, leadership this, leadership that. And then Nigerians in diaspora rose up and embarrassed Harvard and started bombarding. This was years ago when he was still in Kwara. And because Harvard will just quickly design something for them and build them, use the Harvard name to build them millions. So Harvard pulled out of that one. I don't remember the details, but you can Google it, you know, that's something. But the important question is, why are they hungry for that? Because despite their billions, on the world stage, these people are interested